Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us at today's PCCS emPower Hour, where we have members of the community coming together to reconfigure humankind. My name is Alyssa DeGusto, and with us today is Kevin Roman.
Good morning.
And with us today is a really special guest. His name is Allan Feldman. He is a nurturing life healer and CEO of Digital Scope. He is a community member. He has a lot on his resume that he's here to talk with us about today. So with us here is Allan Feldman. Thank you, Allan, for joining.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Oh, we're so happy to have you. We're so happy to have connected with you on so many different levels. So before we get started and really dive deep, would you be able to tell us about yourself? I don't know if you can probably abbreviate it in any way after our little conversation, but looking forward to it.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so my name is Allan Feldman. I'm 25. I have realistically two businesses, one being Digital Scope, which is a business coaching agency, recently started in January of 2020. And then I also I'm an uncertified life transformation coach, and I have a membership platform on my personal website. And everything revolves around those two things. As you said, I'm a really big community advocate, community builder. And so whenever I get a chance to partner up with organizations and see how we can collaborate together, I'm always at the forefront, or I try to be. So, yeah.
Very cool. So, Allan, you were telling us a little bit about your background, like how you got here, what even made you think of this. So let's talk about that a little bit. Where did you go to school? What made you realize, hey, this is what I want to do? I want to do two completely different things, but somehow marry them together and make it a real thing. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with childhood because I think that's really important. I'm a natural empath, and basically what that means is I respond to the needs of other people. If I see something that signals to me that's something that they need to develop in some way, or maybe release stress, release anxiety, I always gravitated to those types of people. And I wasn't that good at it growing up because I didn't do the inner work to be able to be good at it. So then where that kind of led was when high school came, I realized that healing, and you mentioned nurturing life healer, healing was always a big aspect of my life. So I started at Stony Brook and I was on a pre-med track. After 2 years, I had a really low GPA and I had a lot of talks with my parents who told me necessarily fit to do that or even be in medicine in the first place. So then I transferred to CSI. I did computer science because my dad's a programmer. And then I liked it at first for the first year, 2 semesters. So I started in the summer and the fall. I liked it then. And then as it got harder, I didn't want to admit it, but I got less and less into it. And at the same time, I did a few personal development courses that were really influential in my life. And that's where I have the knowledge that I do now. So where that kind of led, I finished that a little bit before my senior year. And as soon as I finished it, towards the summer before my senior year, well, my last year of college, I got a job at New York Law School, a marketing assistant job. And through the job, I would always go to meetings. So I started noticing that I had an innate sense for some of the problems they were having. So, some being like, how do we attract students to the school? And I realized that 2 things needed to happen. You needed to market the right way, which is another word for how do we get the students at the school involved in talking to those high school students or college students who want to go to law school. And then the other being branding, which is just how do we use what is unique about this school to attract students. And so those kinds of things I got drawn to. And then we also work next to Institution of Advancement, So I learned a lot about fundraising, but less of the technical stuff and more of the mindset, because I don't know what about it, but that was always something that intrigued me. More of mindset and less of technical. And then I also worked with events teams and realized through that I had a creative ability to kind of go deeper within organizations and see how can they make different events that one are catered to their audience, which incorporate the programs that they have, and then two, how you can create multiple streams of revenue for businesses. So that's where it's kind of led me. As soon as I graduated, I got a marketing job at JCC, learned a lot there. I was directly under the manager, so I learned a lot. And then I got an e-commerce job right after that. In September of 2019, I got fired in December because it just wasn't my thing. And then where I'm at now is, so I started looking for work in January, but I always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to do my businesses full time because I knew that I was able to help at that point, but I just didn't think that I was ready to do it. And I was 24 at that time. I'm 25 now. So then where it kind of led me was while looking for work up until I think June, I was doing the podcast on the side. And I had like a 2-week period where I would watch maybe 2 or 3 podcasts every day. Specifically one that kind of hit home, where he said, the only reason you're having anxiety about this is you can see what you'll lose, but you can't see what you'll gain from it. And as soon as he said that, I was like, I mean, that's absolutely right. I can't see what I'll gain if I go into business full time. And I knew I needed to because I kind of just knew that it would be more fruitful than continuing to look for a job, which hasn't given me the fruit of the labor. So that's what I do now.
That's incredible. That is quite a
Thank
story.
you.
So what is it that you I'm sorry if I get the title, it was a life
Healer.
Okay, what exactly does that look like on a day-to-day scale for you? Like, what does that look like?
Oh, so the thing that I believe is your connection to yourself is the most important asset that you have for achieving anything. Simply because I realize that I get drawn to people who need help. If I use that gift correctly, that also means that I have to work on myself so that I can fully help others. So how that looks is really, for one, I have to have an impeccable morning routine. And really that stems into doing what I love. I'm constantly evolving, so I'm trying to get into yoga and meditation. So doing things that kind of bring me closer to myself and less of outside. So trying not to use my phone before bed, drinking a cup of water, doing affirmations, meditating. I don't do that so often, but I'm trying to get in the rhythm of it. I think that's really important. And then also 2 other things. So really doing what I'm passionate about. I'm very passionate about my podcast and connecting with people. So I make sure that every day I designate at least an hour or 2 to contact people and invite them to my podcast.
Wow.
And then just collaborating with people. I realize that I'm a community builder and I want to bring my gift out into the world. And I think that by doing that, I'll be able to heal others, especially even those in business, because there's a lot of anxiety with what's going on right now. And if I can offer a new creative lens of maybe there's another opportunity that you didn't see, but I want to provide that for you, I make sure I do that.
Nice. Yeah, I think that well, let me ask you, how has it been since the pandemic has occurred? How have you been able to kind of pivot?
Honestly, it's been a blessing for me.
Okay.
because now that I look at it, like towards the beginning of the pandemic, more towards May, when I didn't know what I was doing, it was very anxious for me.
Mhm.
But then I kind of realized the one thing that I like to tell everyone is that your thoughts aren't actually your own. And then naturally that I go with that is you're either an observer or you're the observee.
Hmm.
When you look at your thoughts, you're actually observing your thoughts, which means that you can't be your thoughts.
Hmm.
So I started looking at that, and looking at like the why behind why am I having these thoughts, right?
Mhm.
And then it's just really looking every day, like why am I having these thoughts, and even going to like ego-based thoughts. Like if I feel anxious, why do I feel anxious? If I feel like I need to be defensive, why do I feel I need to be that way? And then create a game plan for how can I not be defensive and put myself up front and not my ego.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned all these things about ego, and you were saying meditation and mindfulness and everything. We've been practicing mindfulness in the agency. We have a mindfulness training that we've been working on, and I think that it's important the questions that you're asking. A lot of why questions, which are relevant in any field, position, life at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people
Personal.
don't. Yeah, a lot of people don't do enough why questioning when they are in a job or anything in their personal relationships. I agree with that.
Yeah, right. And I make a point to do that every day. Like
Mhm.
even with the podcast that I'm doing, or like that what we're doing here right now is like, why am I doing this? And
Mhm.
it's not like a guilt or shame thing. It's more of a like I want to center myself on the reason why I'm doing it, and then get uplifted by that reason, so that it moves me and creates a very different personality that you see on camera, on this live stream, um, in life in general, with the relationships I have. So yeah.
Wow, nice.
It's so interesting. I've noticed within the pandemic, honestly, even all other entities, they have incorporated mindfulness and meditation and taking that 1 minute like mindful breathing exercise within Zoom conferences. And I find, for me, I'm not a meditator. I am not I do too much self-reflection to the point that it becomes unhealthy, not necessarily like that meditative, like I'm in a healthy space right now. So I find it so interesting, and that's in my personal life, to bring that on a professional scale, and now seeing that there are other entities out there that are really like, you know what, our icebreaker isn't going to be tell me a little fun fact about yourself. It's going to be, we're going to sit here for 5 minutes and really become fully present. So I think that, like, honestly, you really did start this this company of yours at the perfect time, because now people are really saying, like, you know what, in the midst of a pandemic, the rigmarole of outside is going to have to stop, because one way or another, you're still in touch with yourself.
Yeah.
So you have to be in touch with yourself in order to maintain that, mental health check there. So that's super interesting to hear that it's just across the board, people are really finding that this is very important. Like this is a new priority of 2020, mental health and taking that moment of meditation. So super interesting.
I think that we'll see mindfulness and mental health aspects the same way that we see, now that's a big, there was the need to stand up and walk around in your office because you can't sit that long. Now there's like a real health issue about sitting. Give it 10 or 20 years, the same mental health aspects that we see will be correlated in the same way. Take a walk, take 5 minutes before your meeting and breathe a little, like you were saying, opening a meeting. So I think you're definitely onto something, Allan, with asking those real questions. I think that it's hard for people. It's hard to ask those kind of questions of why.
Yeah.
I
can't do it.
Why am I like this? Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. By that.
Yeah, I'm very interested in the mind-body connection, and the way I look at it is any I guess, bad emotion, like anxieties you're having, stress. Are you panicking in some way? Are you sad about something? Are you grieving about something? That's all stemmed in the mind, right? And the thing that's inherent is looking at the past too much or overemphasizing the future. So the reason I had anxiety with choosing one of the options for my business was because I had a thing in my past where I didn't believe I could do it, but I also had a thing which that past translates into how could I do something if I don't believe in myself fully,
Right.
right? So I think that's what differentiates the mind and the body is the body's always future and past tense, whereas the heart is always like everything is perfect right now. It's
Right.
always in the moment. And so if people can take themselves out of the past of like even something as simple as I don't believe I can do this. A lot of people say like I can't have this job because I don't have the connections right now. Like I won't be able to get connections, which is just like them saying I don't have it right now and then believing that they can't. If we could take ourselves out of those things and really go to the moment and just like I make it a point every day to just touch my heart whenever I'm having some sort of stress or anxiety, because the heart is always going to tell you you're fine. Like everything is absolutely fine. So
Ooh, I like that. Wow, I'm gonna use that. That's a good one. I think it's interesting you said that too about the mind-body connection. I think when you talk about physical illness, it's very clear. It's very clear cut. I broke a leg. Put a bandage cast on it. I haven't broken my leg.
yeah,
Obviously, I don't know what what that's like. But and even when you say the mind-body connection, if you have a panic attack hard enough, bad enough, or an anxiety attack, you feel like you're having a real heart attack. Like you really go like something's wrong. People don't put their mental health in a priority until there's that problem, until there's a physical toll on you, and by then it's been however long that you maybe woke up kind of bummy or you haven't had the direction in life that you've had, so I definitely agree with you on the mind body thing. Interesting.
Yeah, and that's an amazing note. That's one thing. So my parents smoke, and that's one thing that's been an overall theme that I've seen is like people wait until something really drastic happens to even want to change. Which the way I look at that is like even with the BLM movement, and it's correlated in this way with like people say if you're not trying to advocate now, you are the problem. I wouldn't go that far, but I would say that like whatever's inherent in your heart is something that needs to come out now, and you can't wait for the perfect opportunity because I mean, even with BLM, if we're constantly just waiting for a riot to happen and taking action when that happens, what's going to happen the rest of the year when nothing happens? There's going to be no change because you're not continuously advocating for it.
I think that's an interesting point. Specifically with that, we had an emPower Hour episode revolving around the intersection between disability and race relations. And there's I personally think there's a time and a place in which everybody has a voice. There is a place for social media to make a change in that way. There's a place you aren't comfortable necessarily protesting one way or another. Maybe your avenue is more personal, having conversations with your family, your friends, but regardless, your position is still being reflected. It's not something happened and now we have to go deal with it. And now when nothing happens, we're going to just hang out. It's true. It's true.
Totally.
So with all this said, how does this translate into your business venture in terms of digital scope? How does that work?
So I like to think of my two things as a continuous circle of opportunities. So with my life coaching membership, it's an e-learning system. So I can include courses in there. I plan on including workshops with different topics. around business, relationships, parenting, emotional intelligence, all that kind of stuff. And where I kind of look to take it is the first few courses in the system would be around business. And then how that would work is like, obviously the ticket price for that would be a lot cheaper than the business coaching. But where it would fall place is you can take the course on the website, but then if you want direct, like one-on-one access to me, who can give you guidance continuously every week, that's where you can go to Digital Scope and do that. And then it's really just a full suite. Being a life healer, I want to make sure that everyone has all the opportunities that they really have in the world. So, and that stems to bringing people into the membership, making sure that the peace of mind that they have, the happiness, the fulfillment out of life, their careers, and all that comes to fruition, whatever they want. And then also in the realm of business, that's why I try to collaborate with people. And I'm kind of steering away from digital scope as a service, but more of like I'm the face of it, and I'm just going to contribute to you and see where that leads. So how that kind of looks is, so a few things I'm working on. So one, I went to an anime convention last Saturday, hosted by Muslim Sisters of Staten Island. And what I've always really wanted to do was create a culture of people interested in anime and cosplay and movies and entertainment to talk about what lessons did you learn through watching those shows and movies. So I look at different collaboration, like creative branding opportunities of like, okay, how can we get more people to come to this convention? Let's enhance the culture of anime and geek culture on Staten Island by having a podcast, by hosting workshops and events. Other ones that I thought of. So I'm trying to think. So one, a jeweler. I reached out to Corey Schifter from Casal Jewelers. And one thing that we're going to be doing soon is, obviously, I think the one thing that he's really known for is Race for the Ring. And that to me has a connection to marriage, relationships, parenting. So I thought of doing a live stream series once a week on exactly that, of like relationship tips, parenting, marriage, dating, all that kind of stuff. So it's really looking at those different avenues of like, how can we impact your audience with whatever the deeper purpose behind your organization is, and then give them some extra money, which is really just like based on what impact you create is the money that you're going to get. So,
wow, that's awesome.
Very cool.
You mentioned a couple of times podcasts. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yes. So it's called Allan Feldman's Infinite Potential, because I believe if we can really tap into understanding our full selves, understanding the power of the heart, developing mind-body connection, and all the values that are required to really design your own life and have the most peaceful and happy life. That's why I created the podcast. So basically what I do is I interview really anyone under the sun who wants to make an impact in some sort of way. So I've had guests in theater. I've had guests in, I'm going to have a candle making company next week come on. I've had owners of Facebook groups such as Wine Fairies. So I bring in different guests from a variety of industries, variety of different impacts that they want to create, and just give them a platform to share their voice and collaborate. And where I kind of take that is looking at, so I'm very much into learning about the personalities and strengths of people. So I start off with what was their childhood like, what mental health or development did they go through, how did they decide on their career, what do they learn in them about, mostly it's about themselves. What do they learn about themselves, and what do they learn about in terms of business? Like, how do we reach more people if they're a marketing person, sales tactics, all that kind of stuff. But really it centers around getting to know the person on a very personal level of who they are, and making connections of like how did they get to the job that they got, and how did they get the opportunities they have now.
That's so interesting because it almost is on the surface like a, even on your website, it says we offer business coaching services. So you kind of come into it like from a business coaching kind of aspect, but there's almost like a therapeutic level like underneath it. It's not just your average kind of, make sure that, it profits and haha,
Mm-hmm.
it's a very deep therapeutic personal level on that really, I would imagine makes it more impactful when you do your work,
Yeah, so there's two things with that. When I look at money is a man-made thing. And also, money is a derivative of how much value you bring to others, right? So when I look at it like that, it's like the more value you can bring, the more opportunities you have to get money. And that money is only a derivative of wanting to impact, right? Like, I want to eventually make $1 million, but it's not because I want to make $1 million and spend it on myself. I want 100,000 of that to go into podcast equipment that's going to set me up for the future. I want 500,000 to invest into a house that'll, raise a family. So it has less to do with me and more of others.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other part of it, I'm glad that you said it's kind of therapeutic. So the difference that I see with coaching and consulting is the reason I went to coaching is because I believe that everyone has the answers themselves. They just can't uncover it yet, right? Like, even with anxiety, like, if I leaned into the anxiety, I would never start my businesses and I would never go into it full time. And so because I held on to that anxiety, I can't get the thoughts that would make me money later on. So it's really looking at like whatever negative is going on inside of you, you have to not get rid of it, but you have to look at it, acknowledge that it's there, and release it so that ideas can flow to you. If you're constantly in a state of panic, of anxiety, of this won't work, how do you suppose that a company is going to be able to come up with new services? Because they can't be creative. Creativity has to come with absolute freedom, which involves looking at your emotions and saying, I'm going to surpass them. I'm much stronger than them.
Wow. I think that's great because, like we said earlier, there's a certain level of stigma involved with mental health currently that's only now being like transitioned out, so it's almost like you're sneaking in the vegetables underneath the dessert a little bit, kind of sneaking in that mental health aspect in order to get them to whatever it is that they want, to afford them the opportunity to get what it is that they want involved with that. So I think that's very cool. That's very cool.
Yeah. And one mention, I keep on rambling, but I keep getting stuff.
No,
the one thing that I see with really any emotion, and I like to go to anxiety, actually what makes your negative emotions worse is that you're trying to resist them, right? And you can see that with anxious people, and they're like they clench up and they stay that way, which means that they're trying to resist it and not want it to be there. But actually, the way I look at it is like, and that's more inherent in the mind-body connection, is the more you're trying to resist, the more it's going to keep happening. And so you need to come from a place of like, why is this happening? What is this trying to teach me about myself? Because all negative emotions are there to either help you grow or to stay the same and not change. And obviously, I'm not diminishing that it's scary to get out of that, but taking small steps, like if you're easily prone to anxiety, like if that's a natural thing for you, like having a morning routine where now like I have essential oils. I've been starting to use my diffuser for like a month and using calming scents like lavender or chamomile or eucalyptus, something as simple as that, or even like being intentional about not using your phone the night before, or just it's really just stems to how do I put myself into a more peaceful place, and then looking at if you have access to a peaceful place at one point, it also means that you have access to it at all times, and then just looking at how can I bring that into my life whenever I'm going through hardships.
I think that that's cool, especially because it almost is like you're essentially almost reframing kind of a situation. You know, you have an anxious moment. All right, what is this trying to teach me? Why is this happening? You know,
Yeah.
I know anxiety and how do I put this? When you are going on a roller coaster,
Yeah.
the same feelings that you have in a roller coaster, the excitement, the trepidation is the exact same as an anxiety attack, except you just don't know what you're afraid of in an anxiety attack versus a roller coaster. But because you framed it in, oh, this is fun, this is great, I'm gonna have a great time, you're okay with sweating and being excited and everything, you know? So it's really important. I agree with you on reframing it and kind of trying to see what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. And nervousness and excitement are realistically the same thing chemically. I mean, you just said it. And looking at like maybe you're nervous to talk to a girl. It's not actually that you're nervous. On the other side of it is you're excited, and you're actually leading more into the nervousness other than the excitement, which is either past or future, which is either like I don't believe I could talk to this girl, or I don't want to have the feeling of failure. So yeah.
I'm just saying, I feel personally attacked by all of this because you are speaking to the queen of defensiveness and anxiety.
You got to get on Allan's level. You got to get the essential oils.
That's it. I bought the essential oils. It's just a matter of actually using them now.
There you go.
Thanks. Thank you. But Allan, with that said, I do have a question for you. So everybody has someone that they kind of lean on in a time of need, time of distress, a time of looking for some advice or just a little bit of comfort and having that, you know, that comfortability with a person. As a life healer, do you look towards other people? I feel like you have to be that person that's got to be strong for everyone. And
yeah, who do you lean on?
Who do you lean on?
So the last thing that you said is I have to be strong for everyone. That has been a real breakthrough for me because I have always played that where I had to be the strong one because as a result of like wanting to help others. And recently I've been doing a lot of work to try and abandon that because I've realized that trying to be strong is actually taking away from me being vulnerable in the moment. And now like I've probably over the last year cried so much more than I ever have because I'm so okay with it now. And really the way I look at it is where is the growth opportunity for people? Now I realize being an empath, I also really like to talk to others. I like to talk. I have like an energy of talking above others, which you can kind of see even with what I'm saying is I have something to say about everything.
That's great. That's great.
And I sort of take a stance back from that because I realize that I have to balance that with being vulnerable for myself and being vulnerable with others because like if whatever I'm feeling, I have to tell others now. So a stance that I really take is where's the growth for you? Me and my girlfriend are actually very much opposites in this. For me, it's really easy to just stay within myself and just soak it all up and really just have like self-judgment towards myself and not tell anybody. So I realized growth for me is actually talking to other people and being vulnerable with other people. For her, I think it depends on the person, but for her, she has an attitude where I have to solve this myself. So I'm always trying to tell her that growth for her would be telling someone else, because her natural is also just keeping it reserved and not telling anybody. So I do a lot of both. When I'm by myself, I realize I have to do both. It's like if I'm going through something now and I don't necessarily have access to others, I'm going to go to myself and really calm myself down. But then also looking at, like, I have a support system, I have my family, I have my girlfriend, I have friends, relatives that I can also go to if it's something that's not like too serious. I go to them also.
Wow. I think that there's so much that you touched on that is relevant. I do want to just throw out there that I think is really important, that you had mentioned how in tune with your emotions you've been more recently and being comfortable crying, especially for men. Obviously, it's a huge stigma of having emotions and things like that. So I think it's important just to like really highlight that there's nothing wrong, because we all feel the exact same emotions, but we think just because we have a beard, you know, we're supposed to be like tough or whatever. I mean, goatee, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
That's funny that you said that, though, because there are some women out there that do not like to admit when they're sad or when they want to cry or that they've actually cried or anything. So I think that it's just a big like personality mess out there.
It's like the flip for women. They're always seen as like sensitive and
Right.
no, you know.
Right, from the female's perspective, I'm a type of person, for example, that does not like to be seen as a sensitive type. I hate being viewed that way. So for me, I would rather bottle up, and I'll explode in private. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's no big deal. But being comfortable, and that's actually a little bit of a journey that I've been on for myself as well, Alan.
Yeah.
That, being comfortable and being okay with saying, like, you know what, it's okay to cry. You don't necessarily have to even be sad. It might just be a refreshing feeling of, wow, I just let out some sort of toxicity that's inside of me, and I just cried it out, and we're good to go. And let's go on that run now.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good note of toxic masculinity is, and it's not even, I don't even go to like, is this a male or a female thing? I just think if you're constantly bottling up your emotions, they're going to keep coming back. So I think personally, it's a really important skill for really anybody is to try and not to suppress, because the more you're going to try to suppress, the more it's going to happen. So really having that outlet of like even if you have nobody, like I mentioned, the morning routine, like there has to be some way that you become more grounded, more peaceful, and sort of go to a place of accepting what's going on and not trying to resist it more.
I think the one thing I also really loved was we obviously the first word in our agency title is person-centered, you know? And I think that when you were talking about growth, one thing that I found was interesting was you were saying like growth can look different for everybody, you know, growth for you is different from growth for your girlfriend. And I think that's really interesting because I think that we always kind of assume like the same things about growth, you know? Oh, wow, they're so peaceful, you know, they mentally grew, or they're mature, responsible, and whatever, which are good things, but whatever avenue you went to get to there, that growth looks different for everybody, you know, and keeping it, as we say, person-centered, allows more growth for that person because you're not fitting them in that same, oh no, just take some tea with some essential oils and you'll be fine. Problem solved, no big deal.
Yeah, totally. Everyone processes things differently, and you can't have a one-size-fits-all kind of solution. I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Nice.
That's incredible. So, Alan, where can we find you? If I want to follow you, I want to know more about. I just want to see what your podcast is about, where your website is. I want to follow you on social media. I want to know who you are. Where can we find you?
Oh. So I haven't been that active on social media.
Okay.
I haven't posted in a few months actually on my main profile, but so I have a Facebook page. It's just my personal name. Everything can be found there. I have an Instagram page, which I haven't used in a while. YouTube channel, also my name, Allan Feldman. And that's where I host all of my podcasts. And then in terms of, so those are the video podcasts. I also have audio versions, which I use anchor.fm. If people don't know, it's a distribution network. So it goes to 8 other podcast sites. So I have Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, Radio Public, and there's 3 others I'm not remembering right now, but those are the most common. So Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, also have a Twitter. Trying to think what else. Also have a Snapchat.
You're a busy guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing I go to, and this is back to you saying person-centered, I realize that as a marketer, and if you want to impact people, you have to meet them where they are, right? Like a lot of business people on Staten Island happen to use Facebook, right? And it just so happens that also a lot of people use Instagram. And then looking at like, how can I use each platform to my advantage? Twitter, I know a lot of people in Staten Island use Twitter to share events and to really have conversations. Practically everyone uses YouTube because, I mean, you can share videos from YouTube to other platforms. Also going to use TikTok.
I'm excited to see that.
So yeah, I really just use any platform where I can get my message across and impact, because if I can attract new audiences, that's what I have to do. I have to be on every platform.
For sure, especially now in such a digital space.
Yeah, and every platform has their advantages. Like Twitter is a very conversation based. So if I wanted to have events or to invite people or create like a roundup post of like 10 industry leaders who believe in this and then a quote from them, like I want to be using Twitter to engage with them. Or even something as simple as Facebook. Like I've joined so many Facebook groups over the last few months that like it's just easy publicity. You can engage with every single post and put in your 2 cents. And as a natural off product, you'll get people to visit your page because you're interacting so much. Same thing with Instagram. Power of Instagram that I've seen is creating hashtags for the community. Obviously, we have Staten Island-based hashtags, but you could also create your own. And so just looking at those different avenues of like, how can we use every free thing on platforms and really honing in on all of it, because everyone is going to give you a new opportunity that you might not have seen.
Love that.
Yeah.
And what does the next year look like for you? What is on deck for you for the next future? I know we're supposed to be in the present and everything, but do you have any long-term for the next year?
So it's funny that you mentioned that, because I'm also a very big visionary and I like to plan ahead. It's my natural state. So one thing that I look at is, how do I create different avenues of services, opportunities, programming, events, all that kind of stuff. So over the next year, what I really want to do, for one, I want to host a business conference, and I'm thinking around November, probably virtually based. So I'm looking at like, who can I partner with? And I'm already thinking of St. George Theater, because obviously I've seen a lot of cultural institutions. There's been a lot of articles on SI Live about like cultural institutions are struggling. So I try to look at like, how can I help these people? So that's one, collaborating. 2, I want to have conferences. So I mentioned the business conference in November. And I also want to do a self-development conference. I don't know if it's possible to do it in person, but I was looking at April or May of next year. So we'll see where that goes. And then it's just whatever creative opportunity comes up. So I'm working on a virtual events marketing hub with an event planner on the island. I'm potentially going to be working with Projectivity.
We love productivity.
I'm going to be working with them to see like how can we change up their services with whatever's going on now, because they're having a lot of trouble. Reaching out to St. George Theater and saying let's collaborate on events and like do that. Hosting workshops, virtual workshops of like how can you market yourself now? What does leadership in a crisis look like? So I'm partnering up with the Staten Island not-for-profit association to do those. So it's just looking at all the different business avenues that I can take and making them happen, and partnering with organizations to make them happen.
Love to see it. Love to see it. You shouted
out your journey.
Yeah, you shouted out a lot of our friends there when you were.
Exactly. Well, that's really awesome. So, with that said, we want to thank you, Allan, so much for coming by to talk with us today. And we're really hoping to have you again soon and looking forward to more opportunities of partnering up with you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, no, of course. Thank you. So for those of you who are watching, please make sure to follow Allan on his social media, his websites. Love to see where we're going next on this great journey of Mr. Allan Feldman. And with that said, I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and we will see you next week.
Amazing.
Bye.
Thank you.